Daniel stood in the stillness of early morning, the kind of silence only suburban neighborhoods knew. Manicured lawns, trimmed hedges, and rows of identical houses. He pressed the flag into its mount, his hands steady but his chest tight. The fabric unfurled as the wind caught it, red and white snapping against blue. For him, it wasn't decoration. It was memory. The HOA's first letter came 2 days later, a white envelope with a neat, almost surgical tone. The flag is not within community guidelines. It wasn't aggressive, not at first, but there was something in the phrasing that crawled under his skin. Martha, the HOA president, was known for her exactness. She had once fined a neighbor for leaving their trash bin out 5 minutes past collection. Her words, always polite, carried an edge that could cut flesh from bone. When Daniel read the letter aloud at the dinner table, his wife Laura frowned. "Maybe you should just take it down," she suggested carefully. His fork clattered against the plate. "I fought for that flag. I bled for it. They don't get to tell me it doesn't belong." The second letter arrived with a fine attached, the third with a threat of legal action. Each envelope felt heavier, as if Martha was reaching through paper and ink to push him closer to something he had buried years ago. At night, Daniel dreamed of desert winds and burning skies, of comrades who never came home. The flapping of the flag outside his window stirred him awake, heart racing as though it were gunfire. One evening, as he stood on his porch staring at the flag, Martha appeared on the sidewalk, her hands folded neatly in front of her. "It's a lovely gesture, Daniel," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "But rules are rules. Take it down, or there will be consequences." Her smile never touched her eyes. Daniel didn't answer. He only looked up at the flag, then back at her, his jaw locked. The quiet war between them had begun, and the neighborhood was about to take sides. The morning after Martha's warning, Daniel returned from the hardware store with steel, rope, and a ladder. By sundown, the modest pole had been replaced with a taller one, nearly twice the size. The new flag unfurled with authority, its shadow stretching across the cul-de-sac. It wasn't just defiance, it was declaration. The neighborhood noticed immediately. Cars slowed as drivers craned their necks. Some neighbors gave Daniel a discreet thumbs up, others closed their blinds. In a place where conformity was currency, Daniel had just declared bankruptcy. Laura felt the weight most of all. At the grocery store, whispers trailed behind her. Patriot or provocateur? She smiled politely, but inside fear gnawed. Every fine, every letter from the HOA stacked like stones on her chest. That night at dinner, she finally spoke. "Danny, you've made your point, but it's getting bigger than us." Daniel's fork hovered midair. "It's already bigger than us." "That flag isn't just cloth, Laura. It's everything I promised never to forget." Her voice softened, pleading. "I don't want to lose you to this fight." But he was already lost in thought, staring past her at the window where the flag's reflection rippled in the glass. Across the street, a man watched from behind half-closed blinds. His name was Richard, a quiet figure no one in the neighborhood truly knew. His eyes lingered not on the flag, but on Laura, as though he was reading something unspoken in her weariness. The divide sharpened over days. One neighbor pinned a miniature flag to their mailbox in silent solidarity. Another filed complaints to the HOA about Daniel's dangerous obsession. The street became a chessboard, each house choosing its color, each move tightening the air. Laura began finding anonymous notes in her mailbox. "Stand by him. We're with you." Another. "Tell him to stop before someone gets hurt." She tucked them away, saying nothing, though the paper burned her palms like fire. At the next HOA meeting, Martha's voice rang sharp. "This isn't about patriotism. It's about order. If we let one man break rules, the whole community unravels." But order was already unraveling, and when the storm rolled in days later, the neighborhood's fragile balance would shatter. The storm came without warning. Clouds rolled in thick and bruised, swallowing the last light of evening. By nightfall, the cul-de-sac trembled under sheets of rain and violent gusts that rattled windows. Daniel stood at the door, watching the flag whip in the wind like a wounded soldier. The pole groaned under the weight, bending slightly with every violent gust. He clenched his fists, memories of desert sandstorms flashing behind his eyes. Laura hovered behind him, arms wrapped tight around her chest. "Danny, please, take it down before it falls." He shook his head. "If it stands through this, it proves it belongs." Lightning split the sky, briefly illuminating a figure moving near the base of the pole. Daniel blinked, unsure if it was shadow or someone real. When he opened the door to step outside, Laura grabbed his wrist. "Don't!" Not now, her voice trembled. Not just with fear of the storm, but of something else she wasn't saying. Outside, the rain hammered harder. The bolts anchoring the flagpole glistened slick with water. A wrench turned quietly, masked by thunder. No one saw the final twist. By dawn, the storm had broken. Branches littered lawns, shingles scattered like cards, and in the middle of the street lay a car, crushed beneath the fallen flagpole. The massive steel had caved the roof inward, glass sparkling across the pavement. Inside, motionless, was Richard. Neighbors gathered in stunned silence, robes pulled tight against the morning chill. Martha arrived moments later, her face set in grim satisfaction. "This is what comes from defiance," she announced coldly. Daniel's hands shook as he stared at the ruin, heart pounding in his throat. Laura stood a few feet away, tears streaming silently, though her eyes never left the mangled car. Questions spread like fire through the crowd. Accident? Negligence? Or something darker hidden in the storm's chaos? Daniel's flag was gone. In its place lay blood, suspicion, and the beginning of an investigation that would tear open secrets no one was ready to face. Detectives circled the cul-de-sac like vultures, notebooks filling with names, times, and alibis. To Martha, the moment was opportunity. She stood tall before the officers, her voice sharp and precise. Daniel ignored every warning. His recklessness killed a man. Charge him and restore order to this community. Daniel's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Laura stepped forward. Her hands trembled, but her words were steady. "I saw her." That night, Martha was near the pole with tools. She wound it down before the storm did. The air shifted, neighbors whispering. Martha's polished composure cracked for only a second before she forced a thin smile. "A grieving wife's imagination," she replied coolly, dismissing Laura with a wave. But Laura's grief wasn't for Daniel. It was for Richard. In the quiet of their bedroom later, Daniel pressed her. "Why do you look at me like I'm the guilty one?" Laura's voice broke. "Because it should have been me in that car." The words spilled out. The secret affair, the stolen glances, the nights Richard had promised her escape from the suffocating walls of their marriage. She hadn't just lost a neighbor. She had lost her lover. Daniel staggered back, the betrayal cutting deeper than Martha's accusations ever could. His world tilted. His flag, his marriage, his fight for pride, all unraveling into ash. Outside, the broken poles still lay across the asphalt, a silent reminder of the storm. But the true wreckage was only beginning to show. The investigation dragged on, but truth slipped through the cracks like rain through broken shingles. No fingerprints, no confession, no certainty. In court, Martha denied everything. Daniel was painted as reckless, Laura as unstable. The jury delivered nothing but silence. The HOA dissolved under scandal. Neighbors moving away, homes left hollow with suspicion. But the damage stretched far beyond community rules. Daniel and Laura stopped speaking, their marriage eroded by grief and betrayal until even silence felt sharp. Months later, a new flagpole rose higher than before, its fabric snapping in the wind. Daniel watched it from his porch, expression unreadable. To outsiders, it was patriotism. To those who knew, it was a monument. Not of pride, but of secrets, loss, and a justice system that never named a villain. The storm had passed, yet its shadow lingered.